Welcome back to Unit 1 on planning. In Classroom 2, we will explore further some of the basic concepts of planning. Let's begin with asking ourselves, why plan? You already saw in Classroom 1 how planning is an important way of ensuring that after a given amount of time, we know whether we achieved what the target was, or in case if you did not achieve the target, what the possible reasons were. In this way, planning helps to ensure that you do not repeat the same mistakes perhaps that were committed during a previous plan. In this way, from one planning period to another, the professional and the team learns new things and advances in solving problems and achieving the targets. So in a sense, planning is often seen as being due to a government order or a large policy. In the case of India, for example, if you are in a district level or a taluka level as a health manager or a program manager, you may perhaps look at plans as merely being a requirement that the government imposes upon you or your team. But remember that this is also an important way that the governments are trying to improve the services and the reach through forcing you or your hospital to write down what your goal is and how you are going to achieve it. And one of the main reasons why they ask for this is, of course, budget. Resources are always limited, and the more and more you are able to clearly specify why you need money for a certain activity, and more importantly, what that activity is going to do to reach your target, the easier it is going to be for you to negotiate more resources for you or for your team. Planning is also an important way of understanding, like we saw before, the reasons for success or the reasons for failure, as the case may be. Remember the determinants of health in a society. Plans fail not always because they were bad. Targets do not get achieved not always because your team did not perform. It is also because of other factors in society, the other determinants of health. And hence, the more and more you clearly specify the activities of the previous year, which ones succeeded and which ones failed, the more and more you analyze why the failure happened or why the success happened, it helps you to influence the other determinants of health in a society. For example, you may have planned to achieve a high coverage of antenatal care in your primary health center area. And for some reason, at the end of the year, instead of achieving 100% antenatal care for all the pregnant women in the area, maybe you achieved only 60%. Then at the end of 1 year, before starting the plan for a new year, it is very important for you to review the previous year's achievements and ask, how come there was a shortfall in coverage of antenatal care? At that time, you may begin to understand the reasons you failed. It could be, for example, that the working hours of your primary health center are inconvenient to people from a particular faraway village. Or it could be that people are unaware in some pockets, some villages, some distant areas within your primary health center of the need for 3 antenatal checkups. In this way, when you analyze the previous year's plans and try to understand why you failed or succeeded, you begin to uncover new lessons about your primary health center or your hospital, and this will then become an activity in your new plan. In the example I gave, you would then set a new target in the plan of the next year. You will say that I make a plan to have an additional nurse available beyond work hours in this particular area so that I can improve the coverage of antenatal care for people coming at at or after 6 p.m. That was just an example. So the more and more you analyze your plans, your achievements of the previous year, the more instances you will get of new activities that could help you improve your achievement. Remember that planning is not something merely that professionals do. It's not just because you are a professional that you can put anything into your plan. You also have to consider that you are planning for a health facility, and a health facility depends and is responsible to a community. So a plan has to also ensure and incorporate the opinions or the demands of the community. As much as possible, an ideal plan has to be participatory, and it has to take on board the suggestions and involve the people from the community to which your hospital is serving. And finally, plans are an important way of specifying which diseases and health problems you are going to tackle in the given quarter or the given year. So, a plan, to summarize, a plan is not merely setting a goal and putting together a list, any number of activities, but a plan has to consider all of these factors if it has to be successful. So we have already been talking of annual plans, quarterly plans, individual plans, etc. Let's look at this term called as planning horizons. Planning horizons is merely a way of specifying what time period you are planning for. The most common one you must have seen is the so-called annual plan. Some of you who are block program managers in the National Rural Health Mission remember this also as the PIP, the Program Implementation Plan. The NRHM's Program Implementation Plan is of 1 year duration, and it is sort of an action plan, a plan to ensure human resources and infrastructure for health facilities, for all the health facilities in a given district or a taluka, as the case may be. But an annual plan is the most common planning horizon seen. You can also have plans which occur for a duration of 2 to 3 years. It could also be a much longer term plans for 5 years, and this is very common in private hospitals to have plans made for 3 years or 5 years. In a long term plan, what you usually see is construction of what is called as a vision. A vision is a very broad target. It is something that applies for a very long term. For example, a goal of an annual plan may be to increase health services to, let me repeat. For example, the typical goal of an annual plan could be to improve utilization and coverage of services, like improving vaccination coverage from 70% to 90%, or improving institutional delivery of women from 75% to 100%. Whereas a vision is something much broader. A vision is, for example, improving the teamwork and leadership among a hospital staff so that they may expand their operations to a much larger area. This could be, for example, a vision that a healthcare establishment could undertake. A vision is for a longer term and will require a series of action plans every year to achieve that vision. In summary, planning horizons are a way of specifying what time period a plan is going to be operating in. Now let us look at supply of health services. Like we saw before, health services are not merely what the health professionals provide. They also depend on a dialogue between the population or the community and the professionals, us. The supply of health services is could be seen as being a part of one of these four components. What are the services offered in your facility? How are they offered? In the what and how, you look at the package of services and the quality of services. For example, in a given primary health center, there may not be a facility for advanced laboratory tests, and there is a reason for that. The reason is probably because the primary health center is going to refer the few patients who require that test to a higher facility. So the kind of facilities provided at a given health center depends on the kind of problems that the health center caters to. How the services are delivered relates to the quality of services. On the other hand, where the services are delivered and when they are delivered are important components where the community may have a strong opinion on. Availability of health services after 6 p.m., for example, or availability of emergency transport vehicles to refer patients. So, in summary, the supply of health services is not merely determined by professionals. It is not merely something that we can sit together and plan once and for all. It needs to come out of a process of negotiation with the community. In the case of a government primary health center, an Arogya Raksha Samiti or a village health and sanitation committee or a PHC Rogi Kalyan Samiti, these are all platforms where some of these components are discussed and feedback is sought. For example, at a typical Rogi Kalyan Samiti meeting, one of the points for discussion could be, what are the new services that need to be added to my primary health center? Or it could be about, are there services that I am providing at the center which need to be now provided at a sub-center? There could be a demand from a distant village that the ANM should be provided with a BP apparatus and she be able to provide routine BP checkups for people with hypertension. So remember that the supply of health services is crucial in your community utilizing these services, and hence all professionals need to seek relevant platforms, relevant places where the supply of services can always be discussed with members of the community. And whenever you make action plans, of course, you have to take into consideration what are the different demands that are being mentioned by the community. Which brings us to the concept of demand, need, and supply. You could look at demand as a behavior by which an individual or a community is seeking relief for his or her suffering. Demand, for example, could be, and this is often the case, for more injections. Demand could be, for example, for new equipment like an X-ray machine or an ultrasound scanning to be made available at a PHC. A demand is usually voiced by a community based on their perception that this demand is going to improve the health status of the community. All demands need not always have a basis. And that brings us to need. Need is the health problems that professionals identify based on technical criteria. For example, you may think that a CT scan machine or an ultrasound scan machine is unnecessary at a primary health center. There could be a demand for it, but you as a health professional may decide that there is no need to provide that because you feel that this is not a service that should be provided at a primary health center level. You may say that this is a service that has to be provided at a district hospital because of the number of people who need it. So, planning in that sense is a process of negotiating between this demand and need to come out with a supply. What you decide to supply may or may not overlap fully with the demand that the community has made. And hence, in course of the year, to ensure that the utilization is good and to ensure that the community is satisfied with the services supplied, there is a need to constantly negotiate and explain and try to understand why and how the community perceives the supply. So planning is not just a document that you make, but a plan is also a process through which you are trying to optimize the demands of the community and the needs of the community that you assess as a professional. So what makes really then a planning team? Let us take the example of the NRHM PIP. NRHM PIP specifies that plans are a decentralized process. So as much as possible, the PIP specifies that people from village health and sanitation committees and from primary health center staff and from there upwards to the taluka hospital and from taluka to the district. So it has a cascading process of collecting plans right from the primary health center onwards, upwards to the taluka and then to the district and then to the state and finally to the government of India. So the PIP process is a way in which the government is trying to ensure that there is a bottom-up planning. In the PIP process, you have some core members, especially the administrative in charge of the facility. For example, if it's the taluka PIP, a THO, a taluka health officer is in charge. The taluka health officer, of course, also consults with the heads of departments, and there is the involvement of the Rogi Kalyan Samitis and the Arogya Raksha Samitis, which are important community participation platforms. It is important always that as many as possible of these people are consulted and they also feel that they have participated in the planning process. So, ideally, a health plan should try to provide good quality of services and an optimal quantity of services and a range of services. And the range of services, as we saw, should be determined based on how much resources you have, which always is a limitation, and the needs and demands in the community. And remember that there always has to be a balance. It's not because you have lot of resources that we just plan anything. Let me give you an example. You must always have one common thing that we see is that many primary health centers first get a whitewash and a paint immediately as soon as new resources come available. It is very important that decisions like this are taken based on needs and demands of the facility rather than quick utilization of the resources. So if there is a plan, either an action plan or a short-term plan, the resource availability should then translate into achieving the activities set about in a plan rather than quickly spending the resources. So altogether, in summary, in this classroom we saw that health is determined by many factors outside the control of health services, but health planning is an important way of improving services so that we can modify the causes of ill health and improve the health status. We also saw that health services should be planned such that there is a balance between the needs perceived by the professional, the demands of the community, and what is finally supplied. So planning process, be it a PIP or an action plan, it helps to formulate a goal, utilizing the scarce resources efficiently and trying to achieve the targets effectively. And finally, remember that the community is an important actor in planning and managing health services. See you in the next classroom.